Hey everybody, so today is September 23rd, and what's the significance of that date? Well, in baseball history, it's a big deal. And I'm talking about September 23rd, 1908, so we're talking 114 years ago. Now, the 1908 season in baseball was like no other season. It was the tightest pennant races in both leagues. You had tight races in the American League with 4 teams within a game or less of each other. And in the National League, another tight race between 3 teams, the New York Giants, the Chicago Cubs, and the Pittsburgh Pirates. Again, just vying back and forth for the lead. What happened on September 23rd is you had the Cubs were playing the Giants at New York's Polo Grounds. That's where the Giants used to play. The Polo Grounds was made of wood. It burned a few years later, which never surprised me. I mean, you have a place made of wood. You have 10,000 fans, was like a big crowd at that time. All of them are smoking cigars and carrying newspapers. So you have newspaper, wood, and burning cigars. I don't know how they didn't burn down every single friggin' day, but that's another story. Anyway, September 23rd, the Giants playing the Cubs, and like I said, it's neck and neck. 9th inning, tie game. Fred Merkle gets a base hit. He's the first baseman for the Giants. He moves a runner that had just gotten a hit also, named Moose McCormick, moves him to third base. Now, it's 2 outs. The next hitter is a guy named Al Bridwell. He, as fate would have it, he got a hit, drove in the winning run, because it was the bottom of the 9th. Drove in the winning run, Moose McCormick scores, Giants win. What was tradition at the time is when a game ended, the fans would just come out onto the field. They would rush the field, and in the Polo Grounds, a lot of them exited the ballpark through the outfield. So they were all crowding on the field. So Merkle, instead of going from first base to touch second, he says, well, no, I'm going to just make a beeline for the clubhouse because of all these fans. This was a really common practice in these days. Most ball players did that. But technically, that's not the right thing to do. He was supposed to touch second base to complete the play. So Johnny Evers, who was the second baseman for the Cubs, he sees this smart player. Smart. He had to be smart. He came up to the majors. He was 5'8" when he came up to the majors, weighing 92 pounds. The guy had to be brilliant, and he was. He knew the rule book inside and out. He asked for the ball from his outfielder, Solly Hoffman. Hoffman threw him the ball, but the story goes, and some of this is legend, Joe McGinnity, who was a pitcher for the Giants, saw what was going on, wrestled the ball from Evers, threw it in the stands. Baseball was really different back then. But Evers got another ball, touched second base, and said, he's out. Says to the umpire, Merkle's out. He didn't finish the play. Well, the umpire called it because they weren't going to be able to resume play. The field was mobbed with people, and a decision had to be made. And a decision was made that week by the National League president. He made the decision, it's a tie game. If the season ends in a tie, they have to replay this game. Poor Merkle, as fate would have it, the season ended in a tie, and the Giants and the Cubs had to replay that game. And I'd love to say the Giants won. They didn't. The Cubs won, went on to the World Series, went on to beat the Tigers in the World Series. And the Giants went home, and Merkle was mercilessly blamed because of that play by the fans for the rest of his life. His teammates were great. They didn't blame him. They said, hey, we all make mistakes, and who in life doesn't? He was a 19-year-old kid. I think it was only his 2nd season. He was a part-time player. He went on to a really good career and had a reputation for being a really smart player. But they called him Bonehead Merkle. From that moment on, he was Bonehead Merkle. And as long as he played with the Giants, fans would be yelling insults at him. And it's a terrible thing that happened. But I like to think about him on this day because he was a good ball player, and acknowledge that he was a good ball player who was treated really unfairly. But anyway, that's a little bit about Fred Merkle. If there's anything I got wrong, I'm sure I got a lot of stuff wrong because I'm just doing it off the top of my head. Just write it in the comments below. I would really appreciate that. Thanks for listening, and take care.